Hello guys, this is Fallen Messiah, and today I'm going to go over the patch notes for PTR version 1.36.1 for Warcraft 3 Reforged. Now this is going to be completely unscripted, just me going off the bat. About me, I'm a old veteran Warcraft 3 player. Warcraft 3 has been my favorite game since forever. It's been a part of every system I've ever had ever since the game came out. I must have at least, I don't know, 20,000 hours in the game without any kind of embellishment, considering that I've been playing it on and off since 2001. So this, in my opinion, makes me qualified to go over these changes, compare them to how the things used to go previously, what the state of the game was before, how would it affect the balance. Now, I'm not a pro player, obviously, but I will do my best to comment on this based on my understanding of the game and based on my experience with the game as well. I'm sorry for the sound quality. First and foremost, I have to say that I'm currently in a new apartment. I'm going to be here for 2 more months, and this room is half empty, which means that anything that I say just kind of echoes like I'm recording in a bathroom, but I promise I'm not in the bathroom. Actually, I'm here in the room trying to get this video out. I could wait for a couple of months, but until then this patch is going to go live, so I just wanted to get this video out as soon as I possibly could. So I will just comment a little bit about the balance, about these changes. We're gonna skip through the bug fixes and everything else. It's not what really bothers, what really concerns me right now. So I'm just going to comment about the balance changes, how they affect the matchups, from my understanding, what could be my suggestions to improve these changes perhaps. So let's get right to it. So first and foremost, let's go to human. So currently, as it stands, people say the human is the weakest race of all 4. This is probably true, although to be honest, I would say the same thing about orc, but I digress. It's a sort of a subjective topic that anyone has their own opinion on, but basically let's get right to it. Militia duration increased from 40 to 42.5 seconds. So it used to be 45 seconds if I recall correctly, then it was nerfed to 40, and now they are bringing it back to 42.5. I think that's reasonable. Now, when it comes to militia duration, there is several things to consider. You have to consider, first and foremost, that this means that humans are going to be able to creep a little bit better. They're going to fast expand a little bit better, but they don't really have much issues regarding that anyway. They're going to be able to call militia to fights near their base a little bit better as well. But also, very important to consider, they are going to tower rush a little bit better as well. So all of these changes have to be considered from several different angles, both defensively and offensively. So, you know, from all of these things said, I don't think I really have a problem with that. 2.5 seconds is significant, but it should not affect the balance that much. It should give the humans a little bit of a boost. That's okay with me. Bash bonus damage increased from 25 to 25, 50, 75. 35 per level. Now this is a lot. Also, I believe 25% is the bash bonus on level 3, if I recall correctly. If I'm wrong, I'm gonna put something on the screen to correct myself. I don't know. I think bash has always been about the stun itself and not the damage. I don't know. Further testing required. I don't think this is broken. I think this is okay. Is this a necessary buff? Well, probably not in my opinion. Okay, you know, let's roll with it. Let's see, you know, how will these matchups transpire, you know. I'm pretty sure, you know, that Blizzard is keeping tab on the feedback of the community from the PTR, so we're gonna see if this stays or not. I'm not sure. I think this could be okay. I don't think this is too broken. Which leads me to this monstrosity. What the fuck is this? What is this? What in the God's green earth is this? Devotion aura increased from 2/3.5/5 to 3/6/9 armor per level. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. Literally nobody asked for this. What is this? What is this? So basically, Devotion Aura grants 3 bonus armor per level to units, all the way up to 9 bonus armor on level 3, which can be reached at level 5 Paladin. This is insane. It's absolute insanity. I'm glad that Blizzard has finally realized how powerful armor is, but this is just stupid. So I'm gonna paraphrase what Grubby said about this as well, because I think he's absolutely right. You know, armor has always been good. Just because, you know, players at the beginning of the game prefer to grab, you know, circlets, claws, etc., doesn't mean that the rings of armor were bad by themselves. They were just not as good for that time, for that beginning of the game. As the game progresses, to mid-game to late-game, armor gets increasingly better. So this is absolutely insane. Can you imagine an army of humans with +9 to every unit, plus inner fire, plus heal, plus brilliance aura? It's insane. I've already seen several matchups, and I will link one in particular of Hella Rifle, a mirror match, where Grubby, for instance, went for, you know, Devotion Aura. It's stupid. Units just don't die. It is absolutely stupid. I'm very much against this. I'm so much against this. So for those of you who don't know, Devotion Aura in old Reign of Chaos used to give just 1 armor point per level. So that is on level 1 Devotion Aura, just 1 armor point, level 2 Devotion Aura, 2 armor points, and 3 armor points per unit for level 3 Devotion Aura. Now this was obviously, you know, underwhelming, so they changed it to 1.5, 3, 4.5. And then there was this buff. I still believe that 5 armor points per unit is a little bit borderline OP, but okay, it can stay. But this is absolutely ludicrous. It is ludicrous, it is insane. It cannot stay. So I don't think this is going to stay. I think Blizzard is very soon going to realize what they've done with this. They're going to receive the community feedback, and they're going to see for themselves in testing. So I think sometimes they purposely dial up the numbers for some, you know, buffs, just to see how they work, just to see how they could work. I think that's exactly what happened here, because otherwise, I don't know how to explain this. I think I don't know what they're smoking in Blizzard HQ, but I would like part of that, because this is not staying. This is just not staying. This is stupid. Okay, moving on. Mountain King movement speed reduced from 290 to 280. Paladin movement speed reduced from 290 to 280 as well. So this is going to be a common trend in this update. Again, literally no one asked for this. Literally no one asked for this. Personally, I'm not a fan of things that slow the game down. So things of this nature, how are they gonna help an RTS? It's not like anyone complained that Mountain King and Paladin were too fast. Right? And I know their value used to be 280 if I recall correctly. But still, like, this is unnecessary. This is absolutely unnecessary. And I'm gonna tell you right now, you're gonna see this trend further down this update. So nerf for all the heroes that don't have already a fast movement speed. Here, 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 and here. This is absolutely unnecessary. It's not necessary. But let me tell you something else. I'm not sure if they consider this or not, but this is a Night Elf buff. This is a Night Elf buff. I've heard people commentate about this movement speed reduction, but I haven't heard anyone mention this before. This movement speed nerf across the board is Night Elf buff, because Night Elf heroes all have fast movement speed. They're the only race that has that. Keeper, Potom, Warden, and DH all have 320 movement speed, all have fast. This does not affect them. They're going to be the only race that are not affected by this movement speed reduction. This is a Night Elf buff. My question to you is, does Night Elf need this kind of buff? And the answer is obviously no. So again, literally nobody asked for this. Okay, moving on. Night Elf. Ah yes, the classical race that, you know, clearly needs more buffs because nobody plays Night Elf ever, right? Anyway, Druid of the Talon cost increased from 135 to 145. That is reasonable. Talons are a bit too good, especially with the change that they now absolutely wreck destroyers, with change from magic damage to piercing damage in Stormcrow form, which again, in my opinion, another unnecessary buff, but I digress. This makes sense. Talons are a bit too strong. This should stay, in my opinion. It's a significant nerf, but in my opinion, it's a nerf that is warranted. Immolation activation cost increased from 1 to 5. Absolutely yes. Immolation, again, too strong. Now, I understand that spell like Immolation is very hard to balance, and it's been one of those spells, one of the things that have been affected the most in these balance changes over the past 2 years, I would say, because it's just hard to get it just right. And I understand that, and I appreciate their efforts in making this spell actually usable, because if you're an old Warcraft 3 player, Immolation for the most part was just a joke spell, useful only for sometimes harassing the, human expansion, but other than that, you would never really see it in pro play. Mana burn was always the more superior option with evasion, so the fact that Immolation now is something that Night Elf players can use is very exciting. I'm definitely a fan of that. However, it needs to be dialed down a little bit. It needs to. So currently, Immolation activation cost is just 1 mana, which means that they can activate Immolation willy-nilly, with no consequence, which I don't think a spell like that should behave like that. So this activation cost is warranted in my opinion. Immolation mana activation requirement increased from 9 to 10. Again, I think it's warranted, and I'm also glad that they didn't change the damage. I think damage of the Immolation is quite high right now, but at the same time, it's not too high. I think it's in a nice sweet spot. Just increase the activation cost, decrease the mana cost a little bit to offset that, and I think that's okay. Warden Blink cooldown reduced from 10.74 to 10.5 2.5. Okay. This is okay in my opinion. So Warden doesn't really get a lot of play these days, and this should make picking Warden just a little bit more exciting for players. So I'm not opposed to this whatsoever. I think this is okay. I think this is decent. Now remember, again, back in the day, I will keep saying this, so sorry not sorry, but back in the day, cooldown was just 1 second for Warden, for the Blink, for level 3. And even back then, even though it feels broken, it wasn't really broken because you were only ever gonna access that at Warden 7, right? So you would get like 3 levels of Fan of Knives or 3 levels of Shadow Strike, and then you would pick ulti, and then only then you would pick level 6, level 3 Blink. So 2.5 is okay, it makes things a little bit more exciting. Again, this is still level 7 Warden we're speaking about, so it does require you sort of specialize in solo Warden, so I don't think this is broken. I think this is okay. Time will tell. Fan of Knives, max total damage, changed from 300, 625, 950 to 480, 800, 1200. Okay. So let's dissect this change. What does this mean? Currently, as it stands, Fan of Knives deals damage to 4, 5, and 5 max units, as it stands right now, with 75, 125, and 190 damage, if I recall correctly. So up to 4 maximum targets at level 1, up to 5 at level 2, and up to 5 level 3. What this change does, what this essentially means, is that it uniforms the targets to 6.4 per level. Yes, I did the math before this video. So instead of 455, it's now 6.4, 6.4, 6.4. Now, I don't know how that's going to be rounded. Is it going to be rounded down or rounded up? Since it's 6.4, I'm not sure. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know how you feel about this. I think Fan of Knives is good as it is right now. I'll be honest with you. I don't think this was necessary, you know, to be quite honest. This is not too big of a nerf. It's 2 extra targets per level 1, which I guess it could be a little bit OP, to be honest. You know, at level 2 or level 3, it's not that big of a buff. At level 1, it's significant. 2 extra targets at level 1 is significant. So, I'm not sure this was necessary. But we'll see. You know, time will tell. Alright, off to the Undead. The Undead have received some very interesting changes, so let's dissect them. Spiked Carapace melee damage return increased from 15-25-35 to 15-30-45%. So basically the same as Taurens. Now this is quite a lot. I think this is too much. I think this is way too much. Yeah, I just don't agree with this. I think this is a little bit too much. Furthermore, bonus armor from the same spell from 3/5/7 to 4/8/12. So again, I've seen a game testing this behavior, and it's pretty stupid. It's pretty stupid OP as it stands right now. So just a level 2 Spiked Carapace gives the Crypt Lord 8 bonus armor and 30% damage reduction. No, sorry, 30% damage returned on melee attackers. I don't know about that. That seems a little bit too OP for me. And this increase of armor across the board, armor values, I'm just not sure if they're warranted. I think armor is fine right now. Rings of armor have been increased, their values have been increased 2 times, they're in a good spot. So this increase of armor across the board for various abilities, I just don't agree with that. It's going to make the game slower, it's going to make the game less exciting in my opinion. Units are going to be, you know, sort of like damage sponges. I just don't agree with that. Basically, if something makes the game slower, I tend to not agree with that change. Bonus armor tends to do that. Movement speed reduction tends to do that. Okay. Personally, I think these values should be slightly adjusted, slightly nerfed. I agree that right now, Spiked Carapace doesn't get too much, you know, value for players because people tend to go for beetles and, you know, spikes. Whatever the spell's name is, I forgot, sorry. And the Spiked Carapace doesn't get a lot of value right now. Impale, right? But I just think these values are a bit too much. Raise that cost reduced from 75 to 50 mana, I think that's okay. When it comes to Necromancer, they're like, you either make a lot of them or you make none of them, you know? This sort of like this all-in unit, you have to commit to this build, really, for the build to shine. You can't just make a couple of them and expect them to be useful, so you just kind of have to make a lot of them and commit, and then it's either do or die. Your tactic will either result in victory or your opponent is going to counter you and you lose. So I think this is okay. Necros have gone through a lot of buffs over the past 2 or 3 years, but nothing really made them stick. They still don't really see a lot of play. So this could be very interesting to get a little bit more skelly play. So yeah, I'm excited for this. Let's see what this does. Triple cost reduced from 125 to 100 mana. I think this is okay as well. It's going to further promote Necromancer, these 2 changes. And cripple again You rarely see it. When's the last time you saw cripple in a pro play? So this is definitely an exciting change, and I would like to see people, try this and see how it works. So far, these two changes, thumbs up. These two, sort of like thumbs down. Skeletal Mastery, cost reduced from 200, 175 to 100, 150 lumber, 100 lumber. Okay. Again, I'm okay with this. This further buffs the Necros, allows the Skeletal Mages to come out earlier. You know what? That's fine. I'm okay with this. Nerubian Tower cooldown increase from 1 to 1.5. Finally, this is a very necessary nerf. Nerubian Towers are way too powerful. You can slow down up to 5 units at the same time right now with Nerubian if you microed your tower well. That's absurd. So make no mistake, this is a big nerf. This is a 50% reduction. However, it's a necessary nerf. This nerf is necessary for the balance, absolutely. Crypt Lord movement speed reduction, Dreadlord movement speed reduction, Lich movement speed reduction. I already talked about this. This is a Nidal buff. It's a hidden Nidal buff. It doesn't seem like it, but it is. This was not necessary. Nobody asked this. Now, before I move on to the final race, the Orc, which is, by the way, my favorite race, is my race that I play, I would like to talk a little bit more about the Skeletal Mastery. So back in the day, you had Skeletal Mastery and you had Skeletal Longevity, right? So Skeletal Longevity would increase the duration of the skeletons, while Mastery would replace one Skeletal Warrior with a Skeletal Mage. Now down the line, I think maybe 2 years ago, something like that, when they really started patching things up, 2 to 3 years, they added Skeletal Mastery as one single upgrade that does both of these things. So it increases the duration and it makes mages, which I think it's a good decision for them to streamline a little bit that update, and to make it a little bit more manageable instead of having to make 2 separate upgrades for a single build. This is a welcome change. Now, what I want to talk about is the direction that this is going with. I feel like it's only a matter of time, so it's a matter of when, and not if, that Blizzard decides to sort of like just make Necromancer have innate ability of Skeletal Mastery with no upgrades needed. Same way what they did with Taurens. They have this basic pulverize ability and then you only increase the damage of pulverize. So I think this is something that they could probably do with Necromancers as well. So my question for you guys is, do you think that would be too OP or not? What do you think about Necromancers just having a Skeletal Mastery without upgrades? What's your opinion down below? Let me know what you guys think. Okay, now off to the Orc, my favorite race. Blade Storm damage increased from 110 damage per second to 160 damage per second. Yes, absolutely needed. Blade Storm is trash. Generally speaking, Orc ultis, they're not really good. Let's be honest here. There are plenty of things that are not good with Orcs, and ultis are one of them. So having a little bit more damage per second for the Blade Storm is okay. After all, Blade Master cannot do anything else by Blade Storming, but just kind of sit in place and move makes him very vulnerable. So the idea of having this extra damage, allowing some more utility for the Blade Storm, I 100% agree with that. Now on to the Spirit Walker buffs. Spirit Walker build time reduced from 38 seconds to 33 seconds. Yes, this is absolutely necessary. Now, admittedly, shaving off 5 seconds is quite a buff, but I really hope Blizzard doesn't change this value. I think this is good. I really think this is good. Spells and Dispel is all the things that orcs really struggle with. And Spirit Walkers now cannot be built from the same building as Shamans and Witch Doctors. You have to designate a special building on them, which is something I'm going to touch upon near the end of this video as well. So I think this is needed. This is needed to hit several different timings, and will hopefully make Spirit Walkers come up a little bit earlier, make them a little bit more usable. Adept Master Training reductions, absolutely needed. It's simply way too long. Researching and making walkers should not take as long as it does right now, so these are all welcome buffs. Makes that the Spirit Link more available, makes the Dispel more available. Very, very necessary change. And then we have the, I believe these are tier 2 upgrades for melee, ranged, and armor for the orcs. Increment, lumber increment reduced from 150 to 125, from 100 to 75, from 100 to 75, that's okay. That's okay. When it comes to orc buffs, these wouldn't be something that I would suggest, but I don't mind that at all. Personally, I think orc needs a couple of buffs to really be competitive. And I know when you think about top players, you know, like let's say Lin or something, you don't really feel that way. In my personal opinion, for kind of like average play, average level of play, I feel orc is lagging a little bit behind. I think this is okay. Again, I have different buff ideas, but I think this is okay. And once again, the movement speed nerf from Tauren Chieftain. What do I even say about this? Again, this is a Night Elf buff. I talked about this ad nauseum at this point, but it's just the fact. I do not agree with this whatsoever. Now let's talk a little bit more about Orc. I intend to make a separate video about the Orc race, but what I would like to do is buff Taurens. At this point in time, Taurens are unfortunately still trash. They try to buff Taurens by making two things. Thing number one, having them come up with the same building as Spirit Walkers and having Tauren totems available at tier 2. That was a huge buff for Taurens because otherwise, you know, you need to go to tier 3 and then make a separate building and then make Taurens, which nobody really wanted to do. And buff number 2 is having them have this basic Pulverize that I believe does 25 damage if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that would be the buff number 2. But the problem is, Taurens still don't see play. They're just hard to make, they're expensive, and they're slow, which is still why you basically never see them. Maybe in Orc Mirror, when it comes to other matchups, they're just too slow, they do not justify their cost, and most importantly, they're too easily countered. So this is something I want to talk about. How about we make Taurens better? So for example, Knights received, you know, the Sundering Blades, is that the ability name, I think? Why couldn't Taurens receive more love? So hear me out, I know this is going to be controversial, but what if we get Taurens some magic resistance? Why magic resistance? Because their counter are heavy magic dealing damage air units. So Griffins, Chimeras, Frostworms absolutely annihilate Taurens in very short fashion, even though they're very expensive unit. So having them like 20 or 30% damage reduction for magic attacks would actually make Taurens stay on the battlefield longer. It would increase their usability as this sort of like, you know, lumbersome, big damage soaking melee unit. That would be my suggestion. Bear in mind that Orc is the only race that does not have any kind of unit that is magically immune or magically resistant, which makes them very susceptible to cheese strats like Mass Talents that would otherwise be absolutely annihilated for any other matchups, but for Orcs it does work because of that lack of unit. So what if we made Taurens have magic resistance? I don't know. Just food for thought. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is orcs coming out. No, not orcs. Spirit walkers coming out of Spirit Lodge. Or at the very least, that is what they used to do, but now they're coming out of Tauren totems, which makes sense in theory, but generally speaking, unless you're going to go for Taurens, Spirit Walkers being available from Tauren totem is an orc nerf, because now you cannot train all of your spellcasters from a single building, like for example human can, or for example, I don't know, every other race can. Orcs have to make 2 separate units if they want to make all casters, which is simply not something that you would do in a high level of play. So you have to pick your battles. Will you go for shamans and sometimes witch doctors and make a lodge, or will you go for walkers and make a Tauren totem? You have to pick and choose. You're just not going to make both of these buildings in the same game most of the time. So overall, this is an orc nerf. Now this has been made with best intentions in mind to buff sort of like the ability to make Taurens, but in my opinion, unless you keep buffing Taurens to the point that they're actually usable, this remains a big orc nerf. That's my opinion. What do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments. You know, I would like to hear you guys' opinion about this, because I feel that unless something is done with the Tauren situation, they should probably revert to keep making Spirit Walkers from the Spirit Lodge. Just my opinion. And moving on to neutrals, just more movement speed reduction across the board. Again, literally no one asked for this. Literally no one asked for this. But I digress. Circlet, reintroduced, I think. Does this mean that the Circlet is finally going to be dropping from creeps or not? To be honest, I don't really understand this, so let me know in the comments. Tome of Retraining now has a stock of 2, okay, fair enough. And Rusty Mining Pick. Rusty Mining Pick grants +1 damage and a 50% chance to dash. Okay, now this is exciting, although this can also lead to some very weird situations like stun locks if you have like a hero with a very fast attack speed, or if you have this item on 2 heroes or more, you can permanently stun lock your opponent. So this needs a lot more testing, but I'll be honest, new item in the game in 2023 is exciting. I like that. I think this is a welcome change, so I'm glad these guys are adding more items to the game. But why this? It feels a bit random, doesn't it? Of all the items that you can add in the game, a Rusty Mining Pick. And also, let's not forget that at least in, you know, the Orc bonus campaign in Frozen Throne, Rusty Mining Pick also allows heroes to attack air units. I really hope this is not going to happen with this item, because they will make it too OP. You're getting an orb item which does bash as a level 3 item. That would not make sense. Well, anyway, guys, that is it for me. I will not comment on the map pool or the tournaments or the bug fixes. I really only cared about the balance changes. So this is my opinion as the balance stands at this point in time. I fully expect Blizzard to change these values as they get more feedback from the players, but for the time being, they are what they are. So what do you think about my opinion? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think about all of this? If you think I'm wrong on something, let me know down in the comments. I will love to discuss this. This is my favorite game after all. And if you guys can maybe help out to, give me that like and subscribe on the channel, that would be immensely helpful. This is a very small channel, as you can probably see. I do expect to add more content like Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Minecraft, Diablo, all the games that I like, all the franchises. But first, I would like to see if you guys are interested in my content in the first place. So any likes, any subscriptions will very much help me to keep making these videos. Unfortunately, I haven't always, really uploaded all that frequently because life, well, just gets in the way, but I plan to change that. So if you guys, can give me some constructive feedback, and if you can maybe, subscribe to my channel, I will definitely have more motivation to do more of these kind of videos in the future. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!